Don't get left behind.
He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back into the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to lick and curl around the wood. The guide breaks into a sprint, and so does the rest of us. The blaze grows despite the heavy dampness from the lake.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony. Today we're hopping back into Lake of Voices. Without further ado, let's hop in.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What's going on? Why would he wander onto these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Where are the others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seeming only just now to have the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are sprawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
I snap my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here! We've managed fine enough already, and these creatures will probably pluck him away as soon as we've gone. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
Good.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at the others. Bamele is outraged, but Margaret is staring at the man with something like fear. She's uneasy, but does not voice her concerns. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges. I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
Adrenaline surges through my veins, and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Margaret, Bamele, and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. None of us have a desire to speak, to be the first one to make a choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched with his arms wrapped around himself, as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you. But that's not how things always go. It doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is, meandering. The words themselves seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hands. Bamele frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You were curled up in a ball when we met.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. A man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bamele huffs, tossing his hand into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It could be, if he's trying to get to the side we came from.
He must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore that he started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to this remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body, noting the scrawniness of his limbs. Scrawny, but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing there quietly looking at us as if watching a play. Well, interesting, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Finally looks at Margaret. She avoids his gaze.
Perhaps I could have let him share my light. Before. But the guide has said the one with him has to remain behind, and I simply wouldn't be able to manage it.
Finally's hands turned into fists. He looks away but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way he came, arms still clenched around himself. Margaret might not be able to take him, but there's another way this could be solved. I could stay back with him. I'll put Bameli and myself at significant more risks, but at least this man will stand a chance. Nothing. I can't risk it. Margaret and Bameli stare at the man as he leaves. We all watch him drag his little frame down the bridge, quickly fading from sight. We had to let him go. We've only barely been surviving so far. The space the man vanished into is dark and silent. We can see and hear nothing of him, not even his footsteps.
Maybe we should call him back? We can at least give him directions. Tell him what paths we've been taking.
It's not going to make any difference. We can't give directions when the bridges we were on might very well have sunken away.
We shouldn't focus on what might become of him. He has his own path to follow, and we ours. We should focus on what we're doing now.
Of course, it's not really a might, but we have to get through this somehow, and being weighed down with guilt will only distract us. The guide starts moving again at a quick pace. After a moment's hesitation and one last glance into the truly lifeless fog, we run to catch up to him. We walk onward in silence. Our party hasn't changed, the stranger was never added to it, so it's not as if it makes sense to miss him, but there's a sense of loss all the same. No one even attempted mirth. However, Margaret glances my way with concern on occasion. I keep thinking I should have done more, should have pushed the guide harder to change his mind, so it was less dangerous to keep the man around. Something. Anything. But I have to let this go. I'm not going to forget that man. I'll never forget him. But we still need to get through this. I curl my hands into fists, hoping it'll strengthen my resolve. Then I push forward. We turn down a different path and the guide stops. Ahead of us stands a group of prowlers. At the sound of us, they turn their heads in unison, as if they knew we were coming. I inhale.
Not again.
The prowlers wriggle, somehow their skin moving more slowly than it should, sliding across their skeletons. They laugh.
We already lost a lantern and it's only our first day. We can't keep doing this.
Yes, we can't lose a lantern at this point. We're almost to the island.
The guide rummages through his coat with a free hand.
What are you planning?
Bameli's tone is borderline threatening, but the guide ignores him. He pulls out a small pouch and opens the latch on his lantern.
Wait, are you going to throw that at them? What if the bridge sets on fire?
It will. We're going to run.
This is insane! These bridges are hellish enough without them also being on fire. And what about the other man? If he's still out there, this could...
He's dead. We're not losing another lantern.
He says it with such detached certainty. It's as if he saw it happen himself. No one argues with him. The guide steps closer to the prowlers, who fall into step behind him, staying close to his back. He bends his lantern back down until it's lowered to outstretched arms. The pouch in his hands is set aflame. With a practiced flick of his wrist, he swings the staff, and back and up, the glass on the lantern snaps closed.
Don't get left behind.
He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back into the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to flick and curl around the wood. The guide breaks into a sprint, and so does the rest of us. The blaze grows despite the heavy dampness from the lake. These bridges aren't normal bridges. Of course that's true. Nothing here is quite right. Hopefully, they won't collapse with the flames. We stay on the guide's heels, almost too close for comfort. If he stops abruptly, we'll all crash into another, maybe even fall off the bridge. Then the world tilts. It was mild stride. When I put my foot down, the bridge isn't where it was. It lurches to one side, either because it was weakened or pushed. Val and I managed to keep our ground, but Margaret falls to the ground. At least I thought that's what happened. She starts pawing at the bridge. My glasses fell off. I can't see. The guide, having regained his balance, presses on. He doesn't even bother to look at her. Melly and I run to Margaret, scanning the bridge, but there's no sign of her glasses. The flames are growing thicker and closer. The heat, life-sucking close enough to nip at her heels. I grab Margaret's arm.
Your glasses aren't here anymore. We have to go or we'll lose the guide.
Margaret squints up at me, her face paler than ever. She nods and stands, and we start after the guide again. As our storm of feet thundering across the board, a silver sliver begins to rise into view just above the edge of the water.
It's the island.
The island? I squint and suddenly make out a craggy form of land and earth. I see it. We're almost there. Safety, at long last, in sight. New energy surges through me. We push ourselves faster, longing to put these godforsaken bridges behind our backs. All at once, the bridges end and our entire group rushes ashore. Earth solid. Earth, a haven from the water. Ooh. I catch my breath while still moving even further away from the dark shoreline. I can't believe we actually made it. Even more difficult is the idea that we're only halfway done. When night falls once more, we'll have to do it all again. Heavy arm follows across my shoulder, and I straighten to see Bamele smiling wearily at me.
Good work out there.
That's not the usual commendation of a job well done. There's a sadness, perhaps even sympathy in the sentence. It ends flatly. Usually Bamele's comfort and good nature gives me at least the urge to smile, but right now I feel like a hollow victory. He moves to face Margaret, who's squinting at the surrounding area.
Good work out there.
This statement is more energetic. He's not willing enough to show lack of confidence in front of Margaret. In front of her. Margaret smiles slightly.
How are you doing without your glasses?
Oh, I'll manage. I have to, after all. I'm not completely blind, thankfully, so I can muddle my way through.
There isn't anything much to see out on those bridges. As long as you stay away from the edge, you should be as safe as you were before.
That's true. It will be fine.
And then the guide is there. He moves so smoothly that his steps on the soft sand are nearly silent, and his dusty clothes blend in with the thinning of the night.
The sun will rise soon. The fire on the bridge is the only reason this island isn't overrun with prowlers right now. However, they could still pose a threat.
Is that why you decided to set the bridges on fire? To make the island safer?
The guide looks at Margaret for what I suddenly realize might only be the second or third time at all night.
Setting the bridges alight isn't an uncommon strategy. It has many uses.
He walks away, Margaret frowning at his reddering form. Come. The guide takes us to an area a bit further inland, but not too far from the water. Trees partly obscure our location, and there's enough room to watch the coast in case the prowlers start to emerge from the water. Essentially, it's a place where an ambush would be hard.
If any of you see anything at all, speak up. We don't want them to sneak up on us.
Almost automatically, each member of the group turns to a different direction. For a brief second, I feel a flicker of pride. This night may have been awash with misery, but we're still here for each other. As the sky continues to fade from pale purple to a muted blue, the water stays silent. For the first time, nothing happens. It's a miracle. Suddenly, my chest is lighter and the air is fresher. The first pricks of light appear over the horizon, stinging my eyes after such a long journey through the darkness. A sound catches my attention and I move my focus towards its direction. The guide is opening a latch on his lantern again. He gently, almost respectfully, blows out the light.
We no longer have to worry about the Nixie. It is over for today.
I'm almost unable to keep tears of relief from pouring out at those words. We made it through the night. We survived. No one feels the need to speak. We look at each other, an understanding passing between us. Then we find our own space, as comfortable as we can get, and lie down for rest. We weren't sure would ever come. My eyes slowly blink open and readjust to the brightness, what little there is. The sun is obscured by thick layer of fog, making it impossible to estimate the time of day. I prop up my elbows and push myself up. The ground is hard and rocky, but that isn't the only reason I'm eager to get to my feet. I check my surroundings. The harsh, craggy earth of the island is interlaced with twigs, vines, and gnarled branches. Beside me, Bamele and Margaret are still fast asleep. The guide, however, is nowhere to be seen. I realize I don't recall seeing him lay down with everybody. It's likely he left us hours ago. There's a creaking silence here. I can't help but shudder at the hollow, aching feeling inside of me. It refuses to relent. I shift my weight back and forth, unsure of what to do with myself. Oh. Memories of last night's harrowing journey flicker through my mind. Valley wakes suddenly, rising with alarm and startling Margaret awake as well. My mouth opens and shuts after a moment of fumbling, where it finally escapes. Valley gives me a gentle smile and makes his way over to me. Margaret follows suit.
Morning.
Is it even morning anymore?
Margaret tries to speak lightheartedly. However, it doesn't do much to improve the mood. A pocket of quiet descends over us.
We should eat something soon. Margaret, do you have enough supplies?
Yes, I think I'll be alright with what I have.
That's a relief. The two of us have plenty of rations, though, so if you need anything, you can always ask.
Margaret sighs and presses her fingers to her temples, acting as if she's fed up with us.
You know, the two of you need to stop looking out for everyone else so much.
Mamele winces at the statement without vocalizing what's on his mind. Margaret and I share a glance. This is about the person we left behind yesterday. The person we didn't help.
I'm sorry. I didn't intend.
It's not your fault.
It goes quiet between us once more. A distant rustling of the leaves around catches my attention. The guide appears, emerging from the thicket. Margaret appears to be a little uncomfortable at his return, while I glares at him as he makes his way over.
The Nixie will not tread on land in daylight. However, being near the shoreline is still dangerous. If you leave the center of the island, remain cautious. Before the sun sets, I will be in this area. It would be wise to meet me here before nightfall.
Why did we have to leave him behind?
I sharply turn towards Bamele as he snarls to confront the guide.
If you would just let him follow behind us, he would be alive.
The guide looks away, seemingly unaffected.
If all you're going to do is leave everyone to be lost, then why bother guiding us at all?
Despite Bamele's severe words, the guide apparently considers his piece here finished. He turns towards the forest area from which he came.
Wait!
Bamele calls out to the guide, reaching towards him. Before he can make contact, I quickly place a hand on his shoulder. He lowers his arm to his side, though I can still feel wrath emanating from him. We stay this way until the guide disappears from view. Bamele begins to kick at the ground, spraying tiny pieces of gravel about.
Bamele, I know you're angry, but regardless of our feelings, we need the guide. If he leaves us, we'll all die.
And we've done so well with him.
I give him a cold glance. We won't even know which bridge to take without the guide. Well, he knows that. This needs to stop. There are people counting on us to make it back. And what of Margaret?
We can't afford to lose our way.
The anger etched into his expression fades into sadness.
You're right, Kika. You're right.
He weakly swats his hand in front of his face, as if he's trying to shoo away his racing thoughts.
I can't stay here right now.
I nod, allowing him to leave alone. Beside me, Margaret releases a sigh.
Are you all right?
No, I'm not. Nothing is all right. And it will never get any better.
Margaret sucks on a breath as she starts to get emotional. Before it can spill out of her, she turns on her heels and walks off in a direction different than the guide's. Quietly, I speak. Margaret, wait. My voice was too soft for her to hear me. Lingering for only a moment, I start following the trail Margaret took. I catch up with Margaret and notice that her eyes are glistening with tears. As I try to move closer, she turns on me sharply.
What do you want?
I take a step back and keep my voice low.
I was worried.
Well, there certainly is a lot to be worried about.
I can tell she does not appreciate my concern, but that's only to be expected. I've seen people react to grief and death in dozens of different ways, and she has every reason to be upset sitting on an island surrounded by a lake that breeds death.
I promise I will do everything I can to make sure you survive through the next night. So...
That's not the problem.
Her voice begins strong but falter and soften as she speaks. I can only watch her without the slightest idea of what to do. Margaret sits atop a large mass of roots and covers her face with her hands. I step over to her and kneel down so that I can be at eye level again.
Margaret?
She twists her body away from me. And that's where that one's gonna end. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the content I'm making. Remember to hit subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back. Here's what happens next. I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.